Make sure you ask these 5 questions during your next corporate interview. First things first, what inspired you to start your journey in said industry or field? Next, you want to ask what is a specific experience or anecdote that you can share that highlights the impact of the product or service that's being offered. The next question you should ask is what sets your company or your offer apart from those in your industry that's offering the same and or a similar product. The next question is who would benefit the most from this product or service that's being offered? And finally, what are some common objections that you typically receive from your ideal clients, and how do you work to address those concerns? For those of you who are here for a bit more information, we're gonna dive into how those particular questions fit into the structure of a solid corporate interview. But before we get to that, let's rewind things a bit. Just to give a little background information, my name is Witherspoon, and I'm an independent video business owner based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, what that essentially means is that my video production company is responsible for everything from pre-production all the way up to post-production, as well as some distribution. By extension, I am also responsible for discovering exactly what the problems are that my clients are facing and coming up with a strategy on how videos can be used to solve those problems. That include me understanding and coming up with a particular video type that can be used to solve that problem, as well as the content and the packaging of the message within said video, as well as how that video or videos can and should be implemented for maximum exposure. Now, all of this is in contrast to someone who is hired strictly in a technician's role. And those people tend to have a producer asking the questions to the interviewee. Now, all of this is just to put into context what it is that I do and the perspective that I'll be speaking from. My company in particular, we focus primarily on brand story videos / video business cards, as well as video testimonials and some event videography. Now, for this video in particular, as it pertains to those questions, I'll be focusing primarily on the development of brand story videos. Now, before going out to actually produce these videos, a mind shift must happen in which we understand exactly why this video interview is even taking place. Now, what I've seen to discover over the course of time and doing these types of video projects is that video interviews are usually created for one of 3 reasons. Of course, there may be some overlap, and this is just from my perspective. Now, the first reason I find video interviews to be produced is to make and strengthen connections, right? The next reason may be to give information, and finally, to persuade. Now, I'm going to dive a bit deeper into each of these as I give example questions. But before I get to that, I want to emphasize that a good interview usually happens during the pre-interview phase and not when you're on set and in production. Really quickly, if you've been finding any value at all in this video, do me a favor and tap that like button so we can get this video in front of more people. When it comes to making connections, which is one of the 3 purposes of an actual video interview, it's important to take this time to dig into the background of your client, of their company, as well as their culture. You should also spend this time identifying who it is that your client is speaking to, whether that's customers, potential clients, or even investors. This goes back to understanding the purpose of the video. A few potential questions that you can ask that will allow for your client to make or strengthen that connection with their prospects are: what drove you to start this business? What problems are you solving? Did you face that problem yourself? What's an anecdote that you can tell about how you solved that problem and what was the impact of it? Who are you solving this particular problem for? And asking these types of questions, you allow for your client to speak a bit more freely and to get a little deeper with the emotional impact that they can have on their consumers, on the prospect, on the person that's actually watching the video. When it comes to the second purpose of conducting a video interview, which is to give information, there are a few things to keep in mind. And at the top of your mind should be, who is this video for? That way you can understand whether the information being given needs to be about the business as a whole, whether the information being given needs to be about the product or the service, or even if it needs to be about the founder or one particular individual within that business. This all may vary depending on the exact type of video asset that you are developing for your client. Now, once you understand what type of questions you should be asking in order to pull out the information that you will need, a few different questions that you can possibly ask if this video is about a particular offering is, what is the specific offer that you're promoting? How did you come up with said offer? What is the process of doing business with you? i.e., what can your potential client expect if they were to transact with you? Now, for this portion of the interview, what you really need to be doing is listening as your client's client. Because when it comes to giving information, that's twofold. And on one side, you have your client who wants to give out or get out information about the particular service or the product that they're offering. There's different bullet points that they must hit in order to effectively promote whatever it is that they're promoting. At least that's on one hand. On the other hand, you need to listen as your client's customer. That way you can ask questions that someone on the outside may be seeking answers to. And ultimately, the video asset that you are developing for your client is not for you. The end user is their client. The end user is their customer. The end user is their employees. The end user is potential investors into that company or that nonprofit or whatever it is. And so with the information that you're pulling out of your client, it gotta come from two different angles. What do they need to put out, as well as what's going to be needed by their customers. The final purpose of a video interview is to persuade. Now, when it comes to different ways that you can ask your questions in an effort to persuade your client's customer, you can go about it by busting different objectives that may come up from their clients. Ask questions about the benefits of their product or their service / their unique selling proposition. You can also ask questions that will help for your client to identify with their customer. Because a lot of times what you may find is that your client solution, what they're offering, was a solution that they themselves faced. And so if they face that problem, they understand the mindset of their customers more than someone who's never dealt with the issue that they're attempting to solve. And so in order to bring those maybes to a yes, there are a few questions that you can ask your client in order to pull particular information out of them. And that is, why would someone decide not to do business with you? That then open up the door for them to explain how they combat those different objections, right? They may choose not to do business with us because they feel like our rates are too high. However, they don't understand that X, Y, and Z is what makes this such a valuable offer, right? And so you can set your client up that way to basically call out any objections that they may receive before they even receive them. Another question you can ask when it comes to the persuasion portion of your interview is, why would someone do business with you over your competitor? This leads into, what is your unique selling proposition? What do you have that's different from that other person? What are you offering that's more than what I can get with them? That's different than what I can get with them? That's better than I can get with them? And so you really just want to ask these open questions in order for your clients to be able to fill that in with whatever their story is, whatever it is that they're offering. So even if all these different interviews follow the same end or a similar structure, because we come to every sit-down conversation with our own unique perspective, with our own unique experience, it's always going to be different. If you've been finding this masterclass useful, share it with a friend who may be able to take something away from this video as well. Now, this is a full circle moment. Let me ask you a few questions. Did you notice that the framework of the pre-interview follows the same structure that I listed for my interview purposes? Did you notice that each of the example questions that I gave for each section of the video interview correlates or falls under somehow those 5 must-ask questions that I mentioned at the top of this video? Do you see how those 5 must-ask questions give the entire framework for what is needed for your next corporate interview? And in case you forgot, those 5 questions that I mentioned that you must ask at every corporate interview are, what inspired you to get started on this journey in your particular field or industry? Obviously, you want to be more specific with the person that you're speaking to. What is an anecdote that you can share or an experience that you can share that highlights the impact of the product or service that you are offering? What sets your offer or your company apart from those in your field that's offering the same and/or a similar product? Who will benefit the most from your offer or from your service? What are some typical objections that you receive from your ideal clients, and how can you address them? The bottom line is that for a successful interview, you must understand your client and their client. You must also ask questions that allow for your client to build connections with their prospects, to offer their products and services as a solution, and you must also ask questions that allows your client to demonstrate to their prospect how the offer solution is right for them. Thank you for spending your time here with me today, and I hope you feel as if it was a good use of your time. If you're interested in what I take with me on corporate shoots, you can click this video here, and I'll see you in the next one. Love.